Welcome to NEK VT Rocks. My guests today are
Grace Castle.
And Brooke Gentry.
Brooke Gentry. Tell me what the orange ribbons are that you're wearing.
Well, the orange ribbons are awareness for school safety and gun violence that's happening recently and the whole controversy around it.
Okay. And clearly you guys have been involved in the movement that started in this form, I guess, on Valentine's Day. At what point did you decide to get involved?
I decided to get involved, immediately, I guess, after all the shootings, even before the Parkland shooting. It's always been a topic that's really started to hit home. But I think the Parkland really hit the school hard, and it made the whole atmosphere at the school change. The threat that happened in Fairhaven, and then there was a threat in Colchester, and I have friends that go to Colchester. So at that point was when I was really like, I need to take some physical action and, really just start joining in on these marches.
Yeah. Was that true for you as well?
Yeah. I always wanted to do something about it, but it's always difficult to kind of get into taking action. But I think the students at Parkland, those survivors, have really created an atmosphere of students coming together and being able to easily take part in the movement.
How did it start at your school? You're both at North Country High, right?
Yeah.
It started, so there was a group of students who formed a social justice club. So they had a Facebook Messenger group chat, and they just kept adding people, and we started having meetings, and that's when we organized the walkout that we ended up not being able to do, but that was all organized through this club that was started by students.
So the social justice group started way before this, or was it as a result?
It was as a result of Parkland.
It was, I think, planned at to begin with, but I think our first meeting was about this. It triggered us having our meeting earlier and really talking about it. Yeah.
The difference between your generation and my generation, which is sort of way back, is organizing was so slow for us. You guys get an idea and you have it networked like that. If anybody's scared of you, it's because of your organizing ability. And frankly, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation that I've had with my parents, because I can go on social media and I can say, look at this march happening here and here and here. And it's so awesome that we have social media to be able to spread all these positive messages, and it's really wonderful because it really gives this movement something firm to grasp onto, knowing that there's people all across the country and the world that are supporting this with us, and we can see it immediately.
Yeah, I think it gives us a lot of power. As a generation, we're known as being very attached to social media and our phones and stuff, and I think it's a good twist.
It's
to show
a wonderful twist, because you were kind of written off before. These kids, all they care about is playing with their cell phones.
And do more than play with these cell phones.
Boy, have your cell phones been powerful tools. It's great. So you were both involved in the demonstration that was at the Fish. That was going to be a walkout, but because it was a snow day, I guess was a plow out. How many of you were there?
I believe there were, 8 or 9 students and a couple community members.
Yeah. Do you think that was effective?
I think it caught attention. I think the fact that we didn't have school, but we were still out there, was a good point for a lot of people who were accusing walkouts as being chances to skip out on class and all those things. The ability to show that this isn't just something that we're following others who are walking out or anything like that. We're here, we're going to do whatever we can to get here and really prove a point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard some really strange stuff that I'm sure you've all heard as well about who's organizing the demonstrations, that you're all foils for George Soros or a bunch of other names that you've probably never even heard of. It all sounds pretty crazy and paranoid. In the group that you guys have at school, who's organizing that?
Well, the group, it's the whole group, we collaboratively worked on the walkout side of it. There's kind of a group of 4 students that really headed that, but I don't know which students they were. But in the morning, our friend Catherine Maurice was the one who messaged all of us. She's like, well, we're still going to go do this. We're still going to go do this. Here, I can pick you up. And that was really cool to be a part of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
But was that also true for the march on Saturday?
I think the march was like everyone knew that they were going to go. I think with that group especially, we don't have like elected like heads or anything. We all can come up with things we want to talk about, and different people can take on different things. And I think with the march, we were definitely like everyone just knew that that's where we were going to be. And
different marches. I mean, some of you apparently went to DC, some of you were in Montpelier, you were in Connecticut, and you unfortunately missed it.
Yeah.
But there'll be another one.
There will be, and I'll be the first one there. Yeah.
Do you have, let me rephrase it, are there specific plans for you to have another march in the near future? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Not within like our school group. We have not set specific goals to be there, but we definitely will be. Yep.
So it's like there's a national movement and local movements.
Yeah, and we're
That's
definitely
great.
feeding off of the national movement.
That's great. So you can get support when you need it from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And hang together when you don't. And one of the things that's probably a challenge here is this is a hunting, shooting, and fishing state. Probably at least 50, maybe more percentage of people here have guns. And then there's all of the fear and drama around, oh, they're coming to take my guns away. I have to run away from the state. Well, there was one about evacuations from the state that really made me laugh. How do you handle that?
Well, I mean, I support having guns. I support hunting. I mean, I'm someone who's trying to like cut meat from my diet. And in my eyes, I'm trying to go down that path. But in my eyes, hunting is the most ethical way to take an animal. I support that 100%. I love venison. It's so good. However, you don't need like these high capacity assault rifles to hunt a deer. And that's where I draw the line. You know, you don't need those.
How about you, Grace?
Yeah, there's a lot of like misconceptions on like what this movement is about. And it's about like getting rid of guns that like really just aren't necessary. Like people only have them to go to like shooting ranges and shoot, but like at that point, if that's all you're doing, then that's similar to just a toy. And if you're protecting a toy over children's lives, then I don't understand that. But also,
exist.
Yeah, and hunters, like, we're not looking to take away guns from anyone. We're asking, like, if you are worried about, like, your guns being taken away, you only need to be worrying about that if you are someone who shouldn't have guns in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, if you have, like, violent tendencies or anything like that, like, there are reasons that certain people should not have guns, but if you are responsible with your weapons and all that, then we have no intention of taking away that.
What do you think about increasing the age limit, which seems to be one of the things in Governor Scott's bill?
I think that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Training programs?
Absolutely. I definitely think that there should be more. It should be harder to obtain a gun. I mean, we're both pretty young. I assume you have your driver's license. That's a process. You have to go through training, you have to pass tests, and you have to do all of this to even drive a car. I don't see why there shouldn't be something like that to own a gun.
Right.
I think it should be similar.
You can't rent a car until you're 21.
Yeah. Exactly.
and your insurance is sky high until you're God knows what age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't remind me.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And ditto for alcohol and cigarettes.
Yeah.
If you're not old enough to make a decision about having a cigarette, in fact, if you listen to the marijuana debate right now, the restrictions that everybody seems to be so comfortable about sticking on that, and the tests that have to be, and the ways of monitoring it, and yet anybody can have a gun. But clearly I'm from a different country and a different culture, and although we have guns for hunting just like most other countries do, most people in their homes are not armed. So this is sort of different mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you involved in other activities, actions, political action kinds of groups?
I don't think I really am. This has really been where I've been putting all my focus. I mean, I've definitely been supportive of the Women's March and these things that have been coming up, but this one is the first one that really has hit close to home for me.
Yeah.
So it's really drive me to take action.
Is that true for you? Come from a long line of activists.
I have a big history of activism,
Yeah.
and like my grandfather and my sister and whole family. I've definitely been like really avid about like taking a stand and like exercising my rights when it comes to these things. I think I was like 8 when I went to my first protest. I went last year. I was in DC for the Women's March. I've gone to a few Black Lives Matter movements in New York, and now I've gone to the March for Our Lives. So I definitely support all of those movements and like supporting immigrants and like the issues with ICE and all that stuff. Yeah.
So you're really at the place where you see how it all comes together, and this may be your starting place, but I'm assuming it's not going to be your ending place.
No. Yeah, I guess this is really, I mean, I've always been following these movements. I've always been there to support them, but just not physically. So this has honestly been a really interesting experience for me, to really start being at the front of this.
Yeah.
So not
Yeah,
really at the
and you
front of it,
are.
but yeah, you know, like, and it's been really interesting for me. You know, talking to my dad about, he was in high school during Vietnam, so kind of talking to him about the similarities and differences between what we both did. It's been really interesting.
Yeah. Were your parents involved in any of the activities around the anti-Vietnam movement?
My dad hasn't really talked about that part of his life too much. I know that he did not support Vietnam and he went to college to avoid Vietnam. My mom wasn't alive, so.
Too young.
Too young. She was too young to be a part of that. It's interesting.
Yeah. Do you have brothers and sisters, both of you?
Yeah.
Either of you?
Yeah.
Are they involved as well?
Oh yes, my older sister is
Yeah.
very involved. Yeah.
And what about yours?
My siblings both really support them, but I don't think they've been physically involved ever. My sister probably. My brother works more with, he works with the department that's helping bring sustainable farming and everything, so he's been on that front of bringing local food to people. He's got his own social justice stuff that he's working on.
It's all important.
Yeah.
It really is. How do you think it's going to be to encourage other kids to get involved, other young people? Because you're our future. And sadly, it looks as though some of us geriatrics have made a mess of the world, and you guys are stuck with cleaning it up. But it's going to take all of you.
Yeah. I think it's really important to like really get out there and not only debate over these issues, but like really get some clear facts about what's really happening. Because especially since we are a generation that is really technologically like centered, it's very easy to find correct information. It's very easy to find very incorrect information because it's all out there, and you find what you're looking for. And so I think to really get us as a generation together, we need to like really work on getting correct information out there, and then from that point on, coming up with a way to really center ourselves around that and agree or compromise at least on those issues as well.
How do you figure out what's real and what isn't?
You know, a good Google search never hurt. You know, you can always just take the fact and Google it and like make sure that it's coming from a reputable source.
It's sometimes hard to know what's a reputable source.
Absolutely.
And I saw a photoshopped picture of Emma Gonzalez, the young woman who's so articulate, and she appeared to be ripping up the Constitution.
I saw that.
That was a Photoshop.
Yeah.
But boy, is that hard to track down.
Yeah. I think definitely when you see something that's like upsetting you or like something, and like you're not sure, and if it's something that like you're like, I don't know if that's real or not, like just taking one step farther and like looking and like just like Googling whether like that information or the source, and like just learning more about where you're getting your information, as well as not relying purely on what your Facebook feed tells you.
You mean Facebook isn't all fact?
It's definitely, it's going to give you what you want to hear. And if you're really avid about any opinion, you gotta look beyond what people you want to hear. You gotta do more research and really learn the facts that are happening.
And I think an important note is that this movement is kind of all about getting these facts, and so I know there's a lot of people that will bash this movement because, we don't know anything about guns, and to that I say, okay, then teach us. Like, I'm more than willing to learn about the different kinds of guns, and I never see knowledge as something that's going to inhibit us. So this movement is all about just finding all of these actual facts and using them to make a difference.
You have a really positive way of expressing that, which is just give me some facts. And it's nice and calm and cool. I watched somebody, I was in Montpelier on Saturday, and I watched a woman who was clearly really fired up herself, really passionate, blast a younger person who was collecting signatures to put on postcards to send to Phil Scott. And for whatever strange reason, this woman thought that was a useless thing to do. I mean, she just about blew her off from the back of her stall. It's sort of really strange to me. But the kid herself, she was very young. She was probably not more than 16. She was so calm about it. I would not have been able to retain my cool in that way. I mean, I would have been in the woman's face. But she was so calm and poised. She handled it absolutely beautifully. And you're talking about the same style of handling it, as opposed to the, I'm in your face, don't talk to me in that way. It's really commendable.
Thank you.
It takes a lot of self-confidence to be able to do that.
I think the best way of communication is just like calm exchange of knowledge. I don't think letting like anger and emotions like come up is always effective in trying to get someone to listen to you. If they're not interested in listening, being angry isn't going to help that. Emotions are definitely important in getting your message across. But when it comes down to two people on either side yelling at each other,
so pointless.
They're just saying words and not listening to what the other person is saying.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen it a lot. I mean, once you get into this mode of being angry and yelling, you might be saying the same thing to another person, but you're both just yelling and not really listening.
Exactly.
That doesn't help anyone.
No. How are you tying this into the Black Lives Matter movement? Because that's a community that's been struggling with gun violence for generations.
Absolutely.
And really trying to have a spotlight shone on it. It didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen, and now it started. How is that group being brought into this?
As a white person, I don't have like a ton that I can say, but I think I'm hoping that having this movement start is bringing in a lot of people who have never gotten involved in these types of protests and movements, and by being involved in similar movements, I'm hoping we'll get people who have never looked at these things before and getting them involved in the Black Lives Matter group and all of those other things, and realize that all of our movements are very similar and we're looking for the same thing, and we shouldn't just limit our activism just to simply one group, when by helping all of them we are helping our singular group.
Right. Did that make sense to you as well?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think our movements are different at all. I mean, there was just that, I don't know his name, but there was just an innocent black man shot just a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah.
The one on the cell phone minding his own business
Yeah,
in his yard.
exactly.
It's
You know?
appalling.
I think that all these movements are trying to do the same thing. It's a cultural shift, and it's not gonna, nothing is gonna be solved by just solving one thing.
Right.
So I think it's good that all of these movements are starting to bond together, and I hope to be part of that process.
So you're sort of saying that we all have different points on the circle to start, but it can still come to the same place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. An unfortunate thing is that Black Lives Matter has been around for a very long time,
Right.
and they've been working very hard. And our movement, the March for Our Lives movement, is new. And from like the places I've gone in support of March for Our Lives and all those things, I've seen it's very white, and it's gotten a lot of publicity, and it's gotten a lot of support.
Right.
That's something that has that the Black Lives Matter group has not gotten, because they are not a white organization. They are not. And I'm hoping that by seeing that these are similar groups, people can realize that not supporting Black Lives Matter is just a purely, but supporting March for Our Lives is just a purely racist point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something similar happened with the Me Too movement as well. That was started more than 10 years ago by a woman of color with that particular phrase, and it sort of didn't get any traction. And then gradually enough other incidents happened. But again, it appeared that it was a white movement. But again, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a woman's movement. It's all of us, just as this is an anti-violence movement. And it will tie into so many other things.
Yeah.
Does your school participate in any of the sort of non-violence training, like meditation? Some groups use restorative justice as an approach for dealing with stress and strife. I know one of the links that's been made is, now if only you kids would just step up as opposed to stepping out, and other convoluted ways of getting you off point, which unfortunately is what I think that is about.
Absolutely.
Where do you go with that?
Well, I mean, to the first thing, our school does do, every week we have a yoga and meditation study hall. I just did it about an hour ago. It was wonderful.
Which isn't a school-wide thing.
It's not a school-wide thing at
Yeah.
all. I think there was 5 of us.
Could you make that a school-wide thing?
Absolutely. I love yoga and meditation. I think that everyone should do it. Yeah. Yeah, it's been hard
I think
in school.
that I completely support the like ideas of like incorporating like especially like yoga and all those things
Absolutely.
into school days. I like whenever I do yoga or meditation, it's such a peaceful experience, and I think that we, like as a school, could do a lot with similar techniques. But the idea that instead of going and marching for these things, we should stay in school and do yoga is something that's just getting us off track from a completely different, it's a completely different issue.
Right.
We should absolutely be taught how to deal with our stress and our anger in a positive way in school. But we should not be, by saying that it is our responsibility as students not to stand up to those who are not doing anything about this violence, and it is our responsibility to stay in school and just be kind to each other, and that will fix everything.
It won't, will it?
Is just blaming the students for being being victims of violence, which is ridiculous.
It's hypocritical. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's hypocritical because when you're even in second grade, your teachers tell you, oh, you need to stand up to bullies. Oh, you need to stand up to whatever. It's like, that's exactly what we're doing. We're standing up to bullies.
Right.
Bullies is not students, but, and I guess the whole point of a peaceful protest is to bring light to a situation, it's to draw attention. So, like, all the people yelling at us and saying that we're just doing this to get attention and to get out of school, I mean, sure, they're helping spread our message, and it's wonderful.
They are.
It's they're like the people who are angry. People who are angry are often the people that are most vocal.
Right.
So they're helping us spread our message. It's rough because I know personally a lot of the people in our group have been really struggling with dealing with this confrontation, but it's what we signed up for. We didn't expect anything less.
Right. And hopefully there are enough of you to support each other. Because some of the messages that are coming in from out there are pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But don't take them personally.
Oh, yeah, no.
And learn ways of just deflecting them back out. I mean, very easy for me to say, because I was never very, very successful at it. So, but that's not a reason anyway not to keep standing up for what you believe and for what's right. Being an activist is an important part of life, in my model of the world, clearly.
Yeah, I think it's definitely great that we are such a social media driven movement, because even when we're in communities that have smaller groups supporting it, we always have thousands upon millions of people who we know are out there supporting us, and we are supporting them. So we have that connection that we can see,
You really do have the potential to make this worldwide.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty amazing. I mean, that is not a tool that's been there for previous generations. Our forms of communication have been really clumsy by comparison. And obviously some of us think mainly in terms of Facebook and Twitter, but there's a whole host more that you're probably really savvy about and involved with and using to communicate.
Snapchat's been a big one. Because, like, for getting to other teenagers, we've been using a lot of that. It's really comforting knowing that there's so many people supporting you, and it makes it easier to deal with all the hate that we get on Facebook and on Twitter, because for how much hate we get 10 times more love and support. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's...
Some countries have tried to shut it down. And I think some of the stuff that's happening about Facebook right now, which is saying, oh, your information is all being compromised. Well, yeah, I'm sure that's happened a million times. Sort of in some ways is seeming a bit as though it's saying, oh, back away from Facebook, back away from social media. And I don't think this is the time to back away.
Yeah.
But hopefully there'll be something better in the future. Maybe we can all communicate just with our minds when we figure out how to do it. That would be really great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time. I want to thank you both so much for coming in
Thank you.
and for giving hope, because that's really what this is about. And I hope a lot of people join in and have ways of contacting you. I don't think you need to leave contact information, because I think people know how to reach you. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.